Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third LinkedIn Live session on the initial SuccessFactors release update of 2020. I'm Craig Powers, Managing Editor at Rizing, with another 7 days of quarantine hair growth. Last week, we recruited you all by covering SuccessFactors recruiting, and now get ready to be onboarded as we cover the latest onboarding release for both 1.0 and 2.0. So if you're joining us, again, you know how it works. Grab your coffee, tea, beer, wine, or even something stronger and get settled in. No judgment from me. A reminder, if you missed our previous episodes on recruiting and performance and goals, you can find that on our Rizing HCM LinkedIn page. Before we get started, I want to apologize for the glare behind me. I have this nice home office with lots of light, but that means there's windows everywhere, so it's really hard for me to avoid that. I also want to make sure you can hear me. Shoot me a thumbs up in the chat to let me know. Okay, good. And another disclaimer with the sheer number of us working from home, if our stream drops, bear with us and we can get back up. But right now I want to jump in with our experts on onboarding this week. Again, returning for a second week, I have Lauren Kurtz. He's our service manager for onboarding. And how are you doing, Lauren? Have you learned and are you ready to improve this week?
I'm definitely good. I was told something about it wasn't bright enough. I don't know if it was the room or myself. So I thought I would just come on out here with my fancy jacket and making sure I can, brighten up everybody's day today. So I hope we're all here going to enjoy it.
Always great with Snapchat filters. With Lauren, we have Nabila Naturajan. She is our senior consultant with onboarding. How are you doing, Nabila? Did you watch last week and did you learn some things, what to do and what not to do from Lauren?
Hi, everyone. Yes, of course. I learned from Lauren. I think he looks very spiffy today, even better than last week. So good job, Lauren. I learned that it's important to have a drink handy. So I've got my giant cup of tea right here. It'll keep me going.
Excellent. I'll go ahead and let the two of you dive into the top release notes.
Definitely. So today, as Craig mentioned, we're going to be doing our onboarding enhancement for the 1H 2020 SuccessFactors release. So with that, Nabila is going to be leading the onboarding 1.0 enhancements. We're going to be talking about some of her favorite items and some of the compliance items. So work queues, federal forms, I-9 updates, and then I'm going to be going into onboarding 2.0 and some of the features, again, that are coming out this half. So integration of onboarding to an external HRIS system, manual initiation of onboarding, no-show triggering, some DocuSign or signature support and e-signature support, and then updates in regards to compliance forms for onboarding 2.0. But as I kind of started with, we're going to start with Nabila. So Nabila, I'm just wondering, obviously I know you have experience in onboarding 1.0. What's kind of the biggest thing that you're looking forward to or excited about with this release?
So this release, just like the last few, has primarily focused on compliance updates, but there were a couple of nice to have, extra things that they added on. One of those was the search picker control in the panel designer. So when you're building panels and they're going to be viewed by your employees or your new hires as they're completing onboarding, there's a new type of field that you can now add on called the search picker control. So it works kind of like a pick list or a drop down, but the benefit there is you can see multiple columns of data when you're making a selection. So as an example, if you're having your new hires sign up for direct deposit and they need to select a bank, they might need to see the bank name and the routing number all at once so they can pick the right bank. So that's a great kind of use case for that, and I've had some clients show some interest in that.
So with that, I know a lot of the time you need a check or something like that to put in some information. So you're saying now that if I don't have my check or I don't know, the routing number, institution number, that you can get all of this multi-level data through that tool?
Exactly. And it makes for a cleaner view. Right now, you might be having 3 or 4 different pick lists so that people can select all those different types of data. Now they can do it all at one, make your new hire experience a little bit cleaner.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. Is there anything else kind of non-compliance wise coming out as well?
There's one more. It's a small one, but it's a very, very kind of nice to have one. It is allowing the view of your work queue to see how many records you want to see. So right now, as some of you know, when you're trying to look at your onboarding dashboard, you can only see 10 records at a time. That can be frustrating if you have a lot of different hires that you want to see all in one place. And so this new selection allows you to decide how many records you want to see on one page, 10, 20, 50, up to 100. So you can just manage your work queue and your dashboard a little easier.
Look, I'm a kind of grizzly veteran of onboarding, and I know in the work queue there's kind of the two views of it. So I'm going to go with the saying here of old dog, new tricks don't really go well together. Is that for the current UI and the Fiori UI, or is it only on one of them?
It is on the new UI for sure. Yep.
So yeah, so on the new one, I know it starts as 10 and you have to click the show more and show more. So is there a maximum or a minimum, like kind of what's the enhancement allow? Because the old one, I think it only shows 20 and there isn't an ability to show more than 20 on it.
Yeah, so this one will show you up to 100. So you can see them all on one page. Yeah.
So for our newer kind of users of onboarding and kind of who is pushing, themselves or their internal users to the new Fiori UI, it's, awesome that they can see more than just 20. That was the limit and still is the limit on the old one. But you're saying now they can set it that they can view up to 100 on the new one if they wanted to expand that list.
Exactly. Yep. That's right. So those are kind of two smaller minor improvements to 1.0. The bigger ones, the bigger impact ones are on the compliance side. One big one that came out, not with this release exactly, but this year is the new federal W-4 form. So that was updated in the US and hit onboarding in March. And so that is live in test and production. That new form came with 4 new data keys. So the important thing there for clients is if you are doing any exports out of onboarding that are using data keys from that W4 form, we'll want to make sure that we get those new keys included in that export.
Are they automatically included? Do you have to custom add them? How does those keys work kind of to the form, the panel, and that export that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so as with all of the standard country-specific compliance forms, the form itself is updated. So there's no action when it comes to the actual form. But of course, if you've built any custom reports, if you're sending that data to a third-party system, then those kinds of specific updates need to be made.
Perfect. So that's on the W4 side for the US compliance. Anything else kind of on that US compliance side?
Couple more, yeah. So on the US side, of course, we've got our I-9 form. It gets updated every so often, and there was a new version that was pushed into the onboarding system. So including 1.0, there is a new form published. So you'll start to see that new expiration date at the top right of your forms. It was previously a 2020 date. Now it's updated at 2022. So just like the W4, this is automatically out there. It's been pushed out. No changes needed, but just to kind of be aware that that new form is in place. And that's just the new I-9 form. There's also an update when it comes to COVID-19 specifically. So the Department of Homeland Security has released some new guidelines for electronic systems where we're dealing with the I-9. So you'll see that the I-9 compliance panel in the system has been updated to let you know that we know that there's a lot of businesses that need to take physical precautions for their employees to stay safe and not come in right now. And so there is a new allowance where it's not going to be required to physically inspect documents within 3 days of the start date when your employees need to be remote. So that should help some businesses. It is going to be required to remotely inspect documents, and that can be done over video or even fax or email, and keep copies of those documents. And then once normal business operations get back into place, then physical inspection will be done.
I don't think I saw that on the actual release notes of H1 2020.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it was not called out in the release notes, but it's a very important thing. You're going to start to see it pushed to your systems already. So you'll see that show up in your panel. The panel itself also has a checkbox on it, so that you can decide if you're going to use that physical deferring option or not. And the nice thing is that then you can report on that checkbox. So later on, if you need to follow up and see which candidates you used it for and which you didn't, you can run that report and then follow up.
Awesome. Well, we have a question from Steve that also says, with that COVID-19, are there any changes on the E-Verify side with it, or is it only in regards to the I-9 functionality?
That's a good question. I've seen the I-9 updates. Lauren, do you happen to know, is there an E-Verify change?
Nothing on the E-Verify side that I know of either. So again, the release was definitely just to that orientation step for the I-9 for the physical documentations. It goes, kind of with E-Verify that as long as you are video chatting, as you said, and getting the proof of it, that is enough for E-Verify, and then you'll have to follow up with a physical inspection when regular business resumes, whatever that kind of constitutes by the Department of Homeland Security.
Right.
And so, I know we were kind of just talking about that it's not part of the H1 release. I think that's a good plug, is that the SuccessFactor Community Board, that's where all of this information was released to, on all the I-9 information, the COVID information. It's out there for partners like you and us. It's out there for all the clients and everybody kind of tuning in as well. And SAP is extremely responsive on this. They understand that these are unprecedented times. Everybody just wants to maintain compliance and just, ensure safety for everybody first and foremost. And so they are continually updating and having conversations on their community board as well. So Nabila, I know you've kind of been out there and keeping an eye on it as well. Anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. I think that, even the whole new release process, having things like demos included, right, with the new features, has been really helpful and a nice add-on that SAP is doing to be able to see new features before they actually hit the environment.
Well, and talking about kind of new features, another item I want to throw out there is our new feature that's going to be coming in a little bit that kind of helps with everything going on here. Obviously, due to COVID, which is a very tough emotional time, we have to be supportive for everybody, friends and family, and business clients alike. And so Rizing is actually going to be putting out a recruiting toolkit in the next month or so. And really what it's going to be is a series of ebooks, masterclass videos, and other assets for topics like building relationships with interested candidates at career fairs, other recruiting events, rehiring furloughed employees, maintaining those relationships, and just overall best practices for marketing and communication. And so again, when all of that comes back to normal, we understand that there's going to be an influx of people and an influx of these hiring practices that would really, really be needed. And so Rizing wants to help. And so through the toolkit, that's what we're going to be offering and putting it out there for people. So keep an eye on our LinkedIn page for all of those details coming in the near future on that one.
That's really cool. Lauren, is that talking about the new or new-ish candidate relationship management functionality, data capture forms to keep in contact with candidates? Is that what that's about?
Without a doubt, that's part of it. And so exactly that, for those of you who don't know about the candidate relationship management tool, it kind of is that add-on to Career Site Builder that you can do it, and therefore you don't have to do a full application. So I think what it is that Rizing understands, there's going to be a lot of job fairs out there and just quick interested people to get their information a little bit quicker. And so like what you were just alluding to, it's going to be an add-on out to the candidate relationship management side, as well as everything else with the masterclass videos and other assets too.
That's incredible. That's awesome. I think that will be incredibly helpful for companies that, like you said, are have furloughed employees and want to bring them back, have a quick way to kind of get their information. That's really awesome.
And I think there's something about like reporting. I think you're working on something from a reporting aspect as well on that topic.
Yeah, actually, for sure. So there is an improvement to a reporting solution that Rizing offers. So as we're kind of getting back, getting prepared for the economy to open and for businesses to restart, it's a huge challenge, right? Companies, especially when you're on SuccessFactors, you have a lot of data, but you might not know exactly what to do with it. And so this Lyra data analytics solution that Rizing offers will let you take data about your employees, where they're located, their demographic information, and then combine that with COVID-19 geographic infection data. You can establish risk profiles, and then you can minimize your employees from getting exposed. And so that it's a great course for employee well-being, and then your business continuity, which we need to get back to as the economy starts to reopen.
Awesome. And that's through the Rizing Lyra tool?
Exactly, the Lyra data analytics tool.
Wow, it sounds like it's going to be something, extremely useful and everything like that. And so, I believe there's going to be a webinar on it and demo showing kind of how it works. And we're going to have a few customers join us as well to talk about that.
Yep, absolutely. Keep checking in the LinkedIn page, and we'll keep getting more information out about that.
Awesome. And again, for all those who are interested, keep checking back to our LinkedIn page, as you just said, for the URLs and to future information on that. And in terms of who's going to be managing our URLs and our marketing page, I just got a ping here, Craig. I believe we have an email or a question that kind of came in before the call that you wanted to throw our way.
Yeah, this was a common question, actually. Obviously, Onboarding 2.0 is now live and ready for anyone that wants to use it, but we still obviously have a lot of customers on 1.0. What really are the differences between 1.0 and 2.0 on kind of a high level?
Nabil, I'll let you start. I think it's starting at 1.0 to 2.0, so I'll let you take that as you started with 1.0, and then we'll kind of go back and forth here maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good. I get that question all the time. Craig, you're absolutely right. 2.0 is now available. It's general release. It's out there. But clients still have a lot of questions about whether it can cover their needs if it has everything that 1.0 has. 1.0 is not going anywhere anytime soon, but of course 2.0 has improved features. I think the big benefit that you're getting with 2.0 is that it's built on the BizX platform. So the same place that Employee Central is and recruiting is, they're now bringing onboarding into that. So you get a ton of huge benefits from that. Having all your data in one place, reporting. When somebody starts onboarding, they get an employee ID assigned at that point. You don't have to wait until onboarding is done in their NEC. So there's a lot of great benefits with 2.0. But I think there's definitely some pieces.
Did I hear you
that we're
say
still waiting on.
reporting of onboarding is going to be in the BizX side?
Exactly right, because right now onboarding with 1.0, it's on a completely separate backend, right, a different platform. So we can't pull that data in. But once it goes onto that BizX platform, now we suddenly have all of our data in one place, which is going to be really helpful.
I even think there might be someone on this call listening in, one of our clients, who was just asking us for reporting items between onboarding and recruiting and platform, and kind of being able to cross it over, and they're on 1.0. And so if they're out there and listening, definitely as you hear that for 2.0, when it comes across, you can definitely use it all on that BizX side there. And I'm going to take this time to plug, I think, another client who might be out there. Nabil, on the last one, I had a question, and this isn't in specific to 1.0 and 2.0. I can say that unfortunately it's not working on both of them right now, but it was a question about search accents for names. So Mallory, if you're out there, we told you to tune in and come on back, is unfortunately in onboarding, the searching for accents, you still need to put in the exact accent to find that name. I went searching for a couple of Emily's versus, I guess it would also be pronounced Emily, but with an accent on it, it did not show up.
Emily.
There we go. Thank you. And so on that one, again, on the first name, you have to put in the accent with the E for them to appear in onboarding.
Good to know. So I think right now, one question I keep getting from clients is, how do I move from 1.0 to 2.0? What's it going to take? Is it going to be a whole new implementation, or do I have any tools available? Some of you might remember when the new version of onboarding was first announced, we were told there would be some migration templates coming out. To make it a bit easier so it wouldn't be a full reimplementation. That is still the plan. We spoke to SAP a couple weeks ago, and we were kind of told that the big focus right now of the entire product team and the engineers is on getting 2.0 all the important features that are needed in there. Things like compliance features, and there's a lot of things that they're working on that. So migration templates are not out yet. We don't have a date for when they'll be available. So at this time, if you're implementing 2.0, it will be a new implementation.
And so, yeah, we don't have a timeline on it. I know that's what you said. And so, there's another question out there that just says, okay, so if we can't migrate it, we can use 1.0 and 2.0 together, and can that be done? And so I'll kind of start on that, is that yes, it can be done through business rules. You drive who does which process for 2.0 and 1.0. So we're seeing a lot of our global clients going this route, who want to take an early adoption methodology to onboarding 2.0. Because Nabila, I think something that is from a compliance perspective, on the US side, and me being Canadian also on the Canada side, onboarding 1.0 offers some compliance functionality.
Absolutely, yeah. So onboarding has standard country-specific functionality for 5 countries, tax forms, compliance forms. And Lauren, I think 2 of those countries are available in 2.0 right now. Is that right?
They will be come June 5th in your production environment, right now on your test environment. And so for Australia and United Kingdom, the compliance forms are now going to be available in onboarding 2.0.
Perfect. All right. I know that's a big question we keep getting. Compliance forms are, of course, heavily used for a 1.0 client. So that's going to be a big win once we get some of those other forms in there.
Exactly. And so, again, I think that's what we're seeing as well, right? Is that your Canada, US, United Kingdom, India, and Australia, those being the 5 countries with compliance forms, they're going to still maintain onboarding 1.0 for the near future. Obviously, UK and Australia might move over sooner than later, now that onboarding compliance is coming out in 1H for them. But for our US, Canadian, and Indian clients who have those onboarding countries, you can still maintain 1.0 while the other ones would migrate to 2.0. And then again, through business rules of initiating onboarding and how it all kind of plays together, you can then send a certain candidate to one process and send another candidate to another process when you are initiating onboarding through the recruitment tool.
Absolutely, that makes sense. There are a couple other features that have come with this first half of 2020 release. One of them being the manual start of onboarding. So our 1.0 clients right now have the ability to manually start onboarding from the process tab. And I understand that's something that's going to be coming come June in production for 2.0. So that should be a nice add-on as well.
Yep. Definitely. And then again, I think some other areas that they're, merging 1.0 and 2.0 that currently are different is the click to sign functionality for onboarding document forms. When onboarding 2.0 was first being promoted, we heard a lot of, only DocuSign is going to be utilized for signing documents. And I think SAP heard a lot of feedback from their clients and from professional services as well, saying, is it going to be included then as DocuSign? Because it's a separate contract that you need. And so again, I think they heard that, and now bringing back the native click to sign with 2.0 will also allow more people to move over to onboarding 2.0 because they don't have to do that extra paid click to sign if your legal and audit and compliance teams don't actually need a digital wet signature, and that kind of click to sign stamp is suitable for onboarding documents.
Absolutely. I keep hearing, our 1.0 clients that want to use mobile capabilities and onboarding, right? We have so many new hires that maybe they don't have a computer and they need to complete onboarding on the phone. That option just doesn't exist in 1.0 unless you have that DocuSign contract. So I think that's a very appealing thing about 2.0, to be able to get that mobile capability.
And that's amazing, right? I know right now that there's no confirmation of if it is. My coworker Dresden's going to hurt me on this one, that I forget the name of it. But you can resize your screen to the actual phone, and it looks like
responsive design.
Thank you very much. I needed an extra coffee to remember that one right now. So I think that's the biggest miss also. But they're going to be working on it with the mobile capabilities that you just said, and now being able to do it without DocuSign. They obviously understand the need for it, and they're building the platform to be a lot more employee friendly with all these 2.0 features coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting to see onboarding get some love. I feel like it's been several years of kind of having this tool, and we get a lot of updates on the compliance side, but it's nice to see such a big push to getting features out that our clients need.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the biggest one, that's actually coming out with Onboarding 2.0 to kind of transition into what the actual release features are for 2.0 is, again, when Onboarding 2.0 came out, the biggest prerequisite was that clients needed Employee Central. It again, was a prerequisite, and you had to have a separate you had a separate procurement for it, and now with the H1 release, you no longer need Employee Central. And so I think to clear something up, if people have been reading about the release notes, is there is a tool within SuccessFactors that is called Employee Central V2. And kind of what that is just a high-level baseline of what is needed from an Employee Central perspective to set up onboarding. But you do not need your own procurement. You don't need your own license for Employee Central to utilize Employee Central V2. Nabila, as you kind of explained at the top of this, is that onboarding is built on that same BizX Employee Central platform. And so the Employee Central V2 gives the administrators access into those admin areas that Employee Central would utilize and an Onboarding 2.0 does utilize. So it's kind of a mini shell version of what's needed for Employee Central on the MDF side of the things for Onboarding 2.0 to work. And then you can export out your information. So currently right now, it all has to go to Employee Central through Manage Pending Hires. With the H1 release, you can now export all of your captured onboarding information out to an external HRIS system. So I think that is massive for clients.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay, so if I understand correctly, the Employee Central V2, it's essentially a setting that would open up kind of mini EC functionality so that I can use Onboarding 2.0, but I don't have to pay for a separate license. I don't have to build out positions or the entire Employee Central side of things. I just need to build out what I need for 2.0 with this new release.
Correct. And obviously, it comes with a learning curve, because anyone, if, you as a client or professional services team that you might be working with has Employee Central history and knowledge of it, learning those new tools will obviously be easier. But sure. SuccessFactors is giving great documentation on admin guides to kind of modify the onboarding side of it. There's still needs from professional services to turn it on and get it all provisioned on Onboarding 2.0 and do a baseline setup, but to modify it and then make changes ad hoc, SuccessFactors is providing the documentation and the tools for clients to do that. But you said it perfectly. Is it exactly that? It's kind of a mini opening for the settings to utilize it on the EC kind of environment look.
That's excellent. That's exciting. I think we've seen the pattern for years now that SAP has put more and more into the front end, taking stuff away from the back end. Clients want to be able to manage their systems. Of course, firms are here to help if needed, but I think that's great. It puts power in the hands of you. When you need to make changes, make updates, it's all kind of there. So that's great.
Exactly. So another item that, I think we both get this all the time, especially from retail organizations, are no-shows, right? Is that it happens every now and then. We hope it's very rare, but people go through the recruitment process, they go through the onboarding process, they even complete all of their onboarding documentation. And then on their first day, they just don't show up. And so with Onboarding 2.0, there was a lot of questions around that as to, well, how is that going to work? Because they've already gone through Manage Pending Hires. I've already started their employee ID process. And so what SuccessFactors has done with this release is they've put in a no-show trigger for the new hires. And so it's initiated in onboarding that, especially for our US clients, they would do on day one during the orientation step when they actually don't show up. And how it does is it actually reconnects back into Manage Pending Hires either prior to the start date or within 30 days of the start date as well. So it understands that you can give them 2, 3, 4, 30 days, and then it reconnects in, and then it will give your Manage Pending Hire record and that employee record a no-show event trigger that you can then trigger additional rules off of to notify certain people or maybe disconnect some access points or anything like that.
That's great. So it sounds like less manual work outside of the system, helps you deal with those no-shows directly in. That's great.
Yeah, right. We all have to remember all those kind of 5-10 rules to figure out, if somebody didn't show, who do I have to message? Who do I have to communicate? Do I tell the boss? Do I tell IT? Do I tell procurement, the car, wherever it might be? So again, having it all in there, you take one action and then let your work streams and your workflows kind of trigger everything. That's a great call out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the other things, is that we talked about some gaps from onboarding 1.0 to 2.0, and they're being lessened and lessened even more. So we were alluding to it, and I think with the release, there's additional documentation of it. So you were mentioning manual starting from a process tab.
Right.
You can now actually do that in your test environments. So again, with the H1 release feature, you can now initiate onboarding process manually. So you can do a baseline one where it's just maybe the name and the email address, or you could also include additional information. And so with that additional information, you might already capture some information, especially during acquisition periods, of some of their personal information, maybe some of their EEO information. So you don't just have to initiate it with just name and email and then send it over to them and redo PHV and all of that. Like, again, you could have multi-level extra information when you manually initiate onboarding as well now.
That's great. And I think there's so many valid use cases for it. Of course, the kind of general recommendation is wherever possible, start in recruiting, come into onboarding, assuming you have both. But yeah, acquisitions, and there's many cases where you might need to manually start. So that's very helpful to have.
And then, to kind of close that gap as well, we were really alluding to it earlier, but there's also now between Click to Sign and DocuSign. So Click to Sign is being put out there for 2.0, and at the same time, on the DocuSign side, they are making it more mobile friendly. So it's not that it wasn't there, but they've added some mobile features to it. It's now supported on Internet Explorer. And I think that's a big one, is we get that a lot of the time. I know I'm a Google Chrome user or Mozilla, and Internet Explorer has kind of fallen back, but people still use it, especially, in public areas. So being able to use Internet Explorer is extremely useful on that side of things. And then the document is printed now with the date applicable to your time zone. So I think what SAP was hearing is that people who might have done it really, really late at night, the signature date was going based off of server time, which might be well ahead, and then throw the date into the next day. So now they're taking dates on their signature documents based on that current user's time zone as well.
Oh, that's helpful. It's a small change, but it's such a nice to have. Saves you a lot of headache.
I know we're both night owls, so I can imagine how many times we're on there doing 10, 11 o'clock at night, in our time zones. And then if our clients were to see kind of the next day, they'd start questioning or they can't find it or anything like that. So being able to do things on time zones definitely helps and make it easier to kind of find what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, we were talking about compliance forms. And so again, I know we started with the big one. The big one was definitely not having to do Employee Central as your HRIS system. And I think the other biggest one that is limiting a lot of clients to going over is compliance functionality. And so as you asked me, and as I alluded to earlier again here, is on Australia, the superannuation standard choice form and the tax file number declaration is now available in onboarding 2.0. So compliance forms, just click up a button. And on United Kingdom, the starter checklist is available as well with H1 2020. So again, for any of our clients out there who have a lot of business in those two areas, please take note of it. I think it will be extremely helpful and kind of maybe lean towards moving over those two countries to onboarding 2.0 sooner than expected.
That's excellent. And I don't know if we've gotten any published dates for when the rest of the compliance forms are coming, but I expect they're kind of coming down the pipeline, right? That is a focus.
So, some people out there might have it, but if they can, I guess I'll be happy to share this on our LinkedIn Live here, breaking news. And let's kind of say this comes with a big disclaimer. Rizing does not develop any of this. It all comes from SAP and SuccessFactors. But on the client H1 2020 question and answer for onboarding, SAP stated that their expectation is US compliance is going to be released during the second half of this year.
Woo!
And
Awesome.
so, no extra details as to exactly what that is, but if they're talking compliance, what we know is W-4, I-9, E-Verify, those are all compliance related. I did ask about Canada, being Canadian here. I did not get any word back, so no. Your friends north of the border might have to wait a little bit longer, but you were kind of saying that they are putting a lot into onboarding, and onboarding is getting the love, and we're really seeing that and hearing that on the 2.0 side.
That's great. That's awesome. Don't worry, Lauren. I still care about you. I know Canada might have gotten left behind a little bit in that, but that's awesome.
So I want to kind of just take a look here at some of the questions. So what we have is one from Daniel. Can we only use onboarding 2.0 and not configure under onboarding 1.0? So if you only want to use 2.0, Nabila, can you do that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So 1.0 is not a prerequisite or a requirement. If you're not using it today and you want to implement 2.0, that is fine.
Perfect. And then I see a question here from Gregory, happy to kind of take back this one, is do you see many clients using 1.0 for those compliance needed countries and moving their other countries to onboarding 2.0? That is, what we were saying, what we were alluding to is exactly that, is those countries who do not have compliance forms. I'm doing one right now for Japan, putting it out there, is that they're going to move over to onboarding 2.0 while their US practices are still staying on 1.0 for those compliance reasons, Greg. Exactly, perfect business case on that matter. I don't see anything else out there. Nabila, do you?
Let's take the look. All right, that's all I see.
Awesome. So again, I hope everyone can kind of see all the benefits. We've kind of gone through their recruitment last week, onboarding this week, how they all kind of connect between the two of them. And I think we're really looking forward to what else Rizing has in store coming weeks for the LinkedIn Live. And so I think, Craig, you have a little bit more information on what the future holds.
Yeah, well, I wanted to thank both of you. Lauren, it's been great having you the last 2 weeks. I believe your next LinkedIn Live session is going to be on teaching folks how to use those Snapchat filters, right?
I can definitely do it. Again, if anyone has, feels just it's a rainy, cloudy day, feel free to drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to. But don't be like the manager who did not know how to turn them off.
Hey, Lauren, Lauren, what food item are you most like?
So I wish I could have cherry pie right now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm doing keto and it's all protein, and I definitely miss the desserts. So if I can turn myself into one, that's the best and closest I can get to.
Great. And yeah, Nabila, thank you for coming on. Was it all you hoped it would be?
And more. It was wonderful.
Great. And well, you are all now onboarded to the latest onboarding release. But that's all we got for you today. Thanks again for joining the live stream. Like Lauren said, we've got more to come in the coming weeks. You can join us every Wednesday at 11 Eastern for the rest of the month and into the first week of June. And of course, if you still have questions that we were unable to answer during this, you can always reach out to us at hcm@rizing.com, or if you need help managing your release updates, of course, we can help you with that as well. Or if you have suggestions for future videos, we like the Snapchat filters, we would love that. Next week, we'll have compensation and variable pay. I'll have another couple experts. Lauren and Nabila have set the bar so high. I hope they can meet it. One more time, I'm going to shout out our Lyra webinar on integrating HCM and COVID-19 data to manage risk, business community continuity, and employee wellness. And that is on June 4th from 1 to 2 Eastern. And there is actually a link to register in the comments of this video, so you don't have to go hunting for that. So again, thanks for joining us this week, and we will see you next Wednesday right here live on LinkedIn.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.